All right, good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Zwifters. This is the morning after the night before for the ZRL Stage 6. It was Paris Champs-Elysees. I'm here with Adam Dawson, should I say, from Zwiftaholics. How are you doing this morning?
Tired. I mean, for me, it's the end of the day. I set a 4 a.m. alarm to get up to race in the EMEA time slot. I followed it up again at 9:15 in Americas, and it's coming up to 8 p.m. at night. So, yeah, Wednesdays they are full on.
Yeah, so you doubled up. So what's the gap between the two races that you typically do then, Adam?
Yeah, EMEA finishes around 5:30 in the morning, and then Americas kicks off at 9:15.
Okay, so you're loading in protein and making sure you're hydrated for race 2 then.
That's it. That's the best thing about it is I get two breakfasts, and they're both enormous. So it's all worth it. Ride to
Awesome.
eat.
Awesome. So, for those who don't know, myself and Adam do sort of a recap review video, like I say, the morning after the night before, and just mull over what happened, what we saw from a team point of view, what was the course like, what the power ups like. So how was it for you? I mean, first of all, the start. I guess I watched your coverage because you also live stream and comment and run commentary on some of the events. So I saw your morning races, and the starts looked pretty ferocious, I would say.
We got totally caught off guard. We watched one of the C grade races and we were just chatting and doing kind of the intro and hello, how are you doing? And next thing we knew, half the field was off the back. It was full on, and I nearly met the same fate in the Americas actually, and partly because had jumped onto work and got back on. I literally got on the bike with 4 minutes left to go, no warm up, and nearly paid dearly for it. My race was nearly over straight out of the gate.
Yeah, yeah. I warned all my team that the races I'd seen earlier that day were going off pretty hard. I always went off reasonably hard, but not as hard as I'd seen in those videos. But certainly the first lap as a whole, I think was incredibly fast. And even after we did the loop around the Arc de Triomphe at the top, we were already down to half the field. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, attrition. That was consistent. I mean, the one that I broadcast, the two that I raced, yeah, the attrition in the first lap, and then certainly by the end of lap two, we were down to a group of maybe 15, 16 max.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, like I say we were down to half, but I think by the final lap, I got some footage from some of our races, and I think by lap 3, I just did a camera 6 reverse view, and people were still just getting popped off the back regular coming up. But it's a long drag, isn't it? It's deceptive that climb. I hesitated to call it a climb in the recon video, but I guess it is. I mean, it goes up to 3% at some point, but I think the cobbles, the speeds, because obviously, you're heading up to that sprint ban, it all contribute to it being a really tough part of the course.
And I was struggling to time my power ups and my efforts. I kept thinking it was shorter than it was, and it just keeps dragging on. And yeah, I was found myself relying a lot on the steamroller power up to try and stay in touch. The van when I had it just to stay in contact because it was kicking off, a good 300-400 meters earlier than I had expected that it would when I was doing my recons.
Yeah, and I think it's everybody as well was conscious that you'd got to keep on the power after the sprint because obviously the drag continues for 100 meters, and then you've got certain teams on certain laps that were pushing around the turn as well. I think as long as you were in contact with a large group at that point, I think the third lap I drifted back to maybe 10th, which I wouldn't typically do at that point, but I'd seen that there was a biggish peloton only 2 seconds behind me, so I just drifted off a little bit. But I think you were reasonably safe as long as you were with the majority of riders in a group. That coming
Yeah.
down the other side, you should be able to close enough. But yeah, really, really, really tough race, but not quite the race I think we saw in the cobble climbs, where for me it was definitely a race of two halves because you'd got that long section down where everyone really backed off because you got those three climbs back to back. But it was certainly was easier going down the other side than previously once you'd established that gap.
Yeah, we the races I did actually had some really good recovery, I think. And what caught me by surprise actually in the EMEA race, we were cruising along in our front group, and heart rate was coming down. I think it was lap 5. All of a sudden, we went from a group of 15 to a group of 40 because, unbeknownst to me, and I wasn't even watching, in the background, little blobs were forming, and the second group grew. and really chased hard, and you just don't see it in a Zwift race to see a race come back together like that. But those intermediate hills were just killing everyone, and so it was hard up there and then backing right off, and enabled the 25 odd riders to actually get back onto the front. So
Yeah.
that race went from being very predictable and thinking, here we go, it's a small bunch sprint, to actually anything could happen here. I might lose contact again if this bunch really accelerates.
I think for me, I know we briefly touched upon it last week, but the difference now between ZRL races and regular Zwift races with having these points is massive. There is a part to regular Zwift racing that if you just sat in that group wait for that sprint, boredom can set in and you can become complacent. Whereas these events now with the points, they've added another dimension. They've made it really exciting. I'm genuinely excited, for these points races when they come around.
Yeah, I love them. I mean, they're fun to watch, they're fun to race. Hence why I do two of them when I can, just because it's so unique.
You're crazy.
And it does add, it just adds that element. And there are other points races that are on Zwift, but I think you combine the unique formats, the limited power ups, the course selection, plus just the prestige of it, and that fun of racing against the same guys week in, week out, and getting to know each other. Yeah, altogether, it's a really great product and a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we've got to talk about power ups as well. And I think before we went into it, I think you and I both said in our different videos that they're probably going to be evenly balanced in terms of the effectiveness. That's pretty much what I saw. I was desperately hoping for an aero and did get one twice on the last lap as well. But for me, it wasn't necessarily the which power up; it was how they were being used, which was really interesting. And again, it took me 2 laps to figure out what was going on. Do these recons, you do all the planning, but in the heat of the moment, the sort of sensible side goes out the window. And it wasn't until we came around that start finish banner that I realised everybody in our front group was sharp enough to be hitting the power up just before the banner, get the
Yep.
benefit on that, the 15 or 30 seconds, remember be, and get all the benefit on that drag rather than wastefully using it round the bend at the top if you had to, or down the other side. So it's less about the particular power up but just where you used it.
Yeah, I found myself, I was struggling to hold on to those groups coming around the Arc de Triomphe, and so particularly as the day wore on, I would go through that sprint banner, and whatever power up came up, I was just activating it pretty much instantaneously just to hold that group, make sure I wasn't gapped on the descent. So I didn't have much strategically to do with them after that. I was very lucky in EMEA to get an aero on that last one and held that for the final sprint, which made a difference. But apart
Yeah.
from that, yeah, I don't know how effective the steamroller was. For example, I know it felt great to have it,
Yeah.
especially when the groups were accelerating as early as they were up the hill and going as hard as they were. It was good to just feel like you had some advantage. But again, things were kicking off so early. Like it was way longer than the 30 seconds that the steamroller gave me. I was running out of power up often before I even got to the start of the sprint segment.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point because, again, with it visually being quite difficult on the Champs Elysees, getting the timing right for that sprint finish was quite difficult to judge where you got to lay your power up out essentially. And I don't know if it was psychological, but I felt more comfortable having a steamroller just because I think it just stems back to Beach Island Loop when it
I
was so
think so.
effective. And we know that the effect is much less on cobbles, but psychologically I just felt more comfortable. And but again, that
Yep.
and I think the other advantage there is 30 seconds as opposed to 15 with an aero. So there is that added benefit in there. And the other thing, I was streaming as well. So the other thing, again, I've got to think more when I'm racing, but I forgot to use it. Or in fact, no, it's not that I forget to use it because I was using the streaming software. When I pressed spacebar, nothing happened. By that time, it was too late. So I've got to start making notes, not just on the course, but actually just common sense things to be doing, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
I won't make that mistake again. I did that once in a video that I called it a masterclass around Crit City, and then I got so caught up in trying to explain what I was doing that I had an arrow for the sprint and I forgot to use it until some, sharp-eyed YouTube commenter said, "Ah, you forget about the arrow." So make that mistake once, you won't make
yeah.
it again.
I stream you stream yours as well, and someone actually messaged me saying you really need to start covering your power ups whilst you're streaming live. And I'm like, well, if someone is good enough to be racing and watching my stream at the same time, to know, or even that bothered to know what power up I've got, then hats off to him because. There's no way I'm watching someone else's stream while I'm watching. But I mean, the other thing I want to think about is talk about is the team tactics. I mentioned that we sent one guy. No, we didn't send him. He went off. And hats off to him. Did those two long range efforts to get first across the line. My job then was just to make sure I was always in that front group, always in the top 10. Doesn't matter if it was 10th, but I was always in that top 10, picking those up. And then to be there at the finish, as we actually ended up, I think, with one of our best point spreads. Did you see anything different? Was there any unusual team tactics or something that you'd witnessed?
Yeah, I think there was an unusual one in APAC. We actually saw a team literally just opt out of the intermediates, just no interest whatsoever in contesting them. They just went all in on the finish. They came first, fourth, and fifth from a small group at the front.
Okay.
And they actually, so they didn't win the race, but I think they were the sixth place team in the league going in. I think they finished third. So for the riders that they had, they actually got a great result just by sitting in on the intermediates, letting everyone else do the work. And that was in C grade though, so there was only 4 primes. So the weight of the points was a little bit different. I think in A and B grade with 6 laps, a few extra points on offer, you sort of did definitely have to chase some intermediates to be in contention to win those. And we had a plan of kind of between us, we were going to split the sprints. I was supposed to go for lap 1, 3, and 5, and then the finish and take kind of a rest on 2, 4, and 6. But after the first one, it became such a battle of survival up the climb that went out the window. And yeah, hold the front group, try and sprint at the end. Pretty organic stuff.
Yeah, I did see that one of the dirt riders in our race had picked up, I think, 4 slots in the fastest through as well. And I've seen riders in the past pick up 2, but this is the first time I'd seen someone pick up 4. But I guess with a 6-lap race, I mean, that's pretty good numbers, right? I mean, that's pretty impressive stuff. And I think he still finished top 20 overall as well. So, but he had a good team looking after him. We had DZR sent 2 guys as we came out the tunnel for a long ranger on the last lap. And Dirt immediately just sent 2 riders on it. And I was fortunate enough just to get on those 2 Dirt riders and hold on there as well. So, yeah, really interesting race. And I guess it just adds to what we've said before. There's a great mix of courses because there are not really any opportunities left for the sprinters, I think.
No, and I tell you what, if I never see a cobble again, I think I'll be happy. The last 2 weeks, they're slow. They drag everything out. All of my timing around when I sort of changed gear in the sprint and things like that was all thrown out. So only too happy to leave the cobbles behind now after those last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna remember that statement when we finish the Surrey Hills in 2 weeks' time, and if you never see a hill again, might be the statement that we're both saying at that point, I guess.
To say I'm out of action now in the EMEA time slot. I'm going to miss the last 2 due to work, but I will be able to race in Americas. So yes, I'll get my taste of hills around Surrey Hills in week 8.
Yeah, I guess the other thing I just wanted to mention is last time I checked the WTRL website this morning, they've got a new look on the points and the way that it's all displayed. I've not been able to find the team results so far from yesterday. It seems to be difficult, if not impossible, to find the individual team results, but hopefully that'll be something they're looking at. But I noticed they've added an individual classification as well, so I wonder if that's a mark of something to come. Maybe, I don't know, but it's hopefully we'll see this team classification organised.
Yeah, I did see a comment on Facebook. Someone used the words, I think WTRL overlooked this, and I've learnt that WTRL very rarely overlook anything. I dare say it's just in progress. I'm sure they've thought of exactly that. So, I'm pretty impressed. I enjoyed the extra detail in it. And obviously they're looking to continue to improve it and give us some more granularity around the results. I mean, that's what we all love, dissecting the results, let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of the geeking out process, I guess. So you're not racing, but are you still Zwiftaholics? It seems to be going well. The channel's growing. Are you still going to be running the commentary in the next couple of weeks for the final few races?
We'll skip the team time trial. I admit we sort of struggle to commentate on those. They don't quite have the same dynamics of the points racing. So we'll have an easy week next week. Definitely back for APAC region, Surrey Hills to have a look at that, see how that one breaks out, and hopefully give some insight and some tips for the people racing in the later time zones.
Yeah, fantastic. That'll be good. I'll keep my eye out for that. I've already ridden that course and done the recon for that. And we talk about attritional. That's going to be as attritional as it gets. And I think there's going to be after some major scratching of the head there to figure out how exactly to set your team up for earning the maximum points, because whether one rider within the team can pick up, the points that they need to get themselves where they want in the table will be an interesting battle, because that is some elevation over those short climbs. So one to watch. We'll hopefully catch up the day after as well and review the results and all the tactics and what's happened. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Adam, thank you for joining us. Again, don't forget, check out Zwiftaholics on YouTube. You got a Facebook page as well, I think, Adam?
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram as well.
Fantastic. So check out that. We'll leave some links in the description below, and we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thanks, Si. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Cheers, Adam. Bye.